How much do you need to invest to replace? One bill, then one paycheck, then your job. Right now, somewhere out there, someone is getting paid to do absolutely nothing. No shift, no boss, no alarm clock. Money just shows up in their account, and they didn't lift a finger that day to earn it. Sounds like a scam, right? It's not. It's dividends. And the amount you'd need to make your first real chunk of this income is probably a lot less and a lot more reachable than the internet has led you to believe. You've seen the videos screaming that you need $1 million to live off your investments. But that's not where anyone starts. Your first goal isn't quitting your job. It's smaller, quieter, and honestly way more life-changing than it sounds. Covering one bill. Just one. And you don't have to start by replacing your entire paycheck. That's the mistake that makes people quit before they begin, staring at some giant number and deciding it's hopeless. So we'll build this in stages. How dividend income can first cover one bill, then several bills, and eventually a much larger part of your monthly expenses. Depending on the yield you aim for, the amount you need swings anywhere from $200,000 up to $500,000. And that gap is the whole game, because the number that looks easiest to hit is usually the one hiding the most risk. Quick definition first. A dividend is a slice of a company's profit paid to you just for owning the stock. Yield is that dividend divided by the price you paid as a percentage. A 4% yield means for every $100 you invest, you get $4 a year in cash. A higher yield means you need less money invested to hit your target, which sounds great until you realize why some yields are high in the first place. Hold that thought. Let's make it real, starting with stage 1, replacing one bill. The first milestone is $6,000 a year, or $500 a month. That's not retirement money, but it quietly changes a life. It covers groceries for a lot of households. It pays off a car loan. It funds an emergency account so the next flat tire isn't a crisis. So here's the math. To earn $6,000 a year, at a 2% yield, you'd need $300,000 invested. At 3%, $200,000. At 4%, $150,000. At 5%, just $120,000. Same $500 a month, 4 very different price tags. Let's slow down on that 4% line, because it's the one I'd point most people to. $500 a month is $6,000 a year. To get $6,000 out of a $150,000 portfolio, that portfolio has to yield 4%, because 4% of $150,000 is $6,000. That's the whole equation, but 2 honest caveats. That $500 a month is an average, the annual total sliced into 12, and the real payments won't be equal. And dividends aren't guaranteed. A company can cut them or cancel them entirely in a bad year. So $150,000 at 4% is a realistic target, but one you build carefully, not a switch you flip. And if this is useful so far, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps. Okay, let's climb. The next target is $7,000 a year, about $583 a month. To hit it, at 2%, you'd need $350,000. At 3%, about $233,000. At 4%, $175,000. At 5%, $140,000. As the yield climbs, the portfolio you need shrinks fast. It's tempting. It's supposed to be. Which brings us to the main event and stage 2, starting to replace a paycheck. $10,000 a year, or $833 a month. This is where the income becomes visible in everyday life. You're covering one major monthly bill outright, or several smaller ones at once. So here's the number everyone came for. To generate $10,000 a year, at 2% you need $500,000. At 3%, $333,000. At 4%, $250,000. At 5%, $200,000. And there it is, the single most important sentence in this video. At a 5% yield, $10,000 a year looks possible with $200,000 invested. But at a more conservative 3% yield, you need more than $333,000. Same income, a gap of over $130,000. The yield you choose doesn't just tweak the plan, it is the plan. Now let's make that tactile. Instead of $250,000 portfolio, think in shares. Say a fund trades around $50 a share and pays about $2 a year per share, a 4% yield. To reach $10,000 a year, you'd need about 5,000 shares. Not a scary $250,000 wall, but a pile of shares you add to a little at a time. And that portfolio won't hand you a clean $833 on the first of every month. Many funds pay quarterly and unevenly, so one quarter might run $500, then $150, then $1,850. Same $2,500 total, lumpy along the way. Keep a small buffer, and you're fine. Now some of you are thinking, if 5% needs the least money, why not build the whole plan around it? Here's how yield actually works. It gets high for one of two reasons. The stock price fell, or the dividend is unusually generous relative to what the company can safely afford. Both are warning signs. So 2% is the conservative case. Bigger portfolio, but sturdy. 3% is your balanced planning number. 4% is stronger income that deserves a closer look. And 5% is the aggressive case. Mathematically possible, but not the default you build your future on. I'm showing you 5% because the math is real, not because you should bet your retirement on it. And that's why every serious plan needs a stress test. Imagine your $10,000 income gets cut by 20%. Overnight, you're earning $8,000, and you did nothing wrong. That's exactly why a portfolio should never lean on one company, one sector, or one suspiciously high yield. Spread it across many payers and industries. Don't chase the highest number on the screen, and keep some emergency cash so you're never forced to sell at the worst moment. Here's the part I most want you to hear, because the numbers can make the start feel impossible. The first $10,000 is the hardest, and it's supposed to be. Early on, almost all your progress comes from your own contributions. You put in $100, you see $100. The dividends are a rounding error. It feels slow, but that's the system proving it works. Because later, the dividends start pulling their own weight. You reinvest them, they buy more shares, those shares pay more dividends, and the account grows on money you never deposited. Compounding doesn't show up early. It hides. And then one day, it's doing more of the lifting than you are. Now, where you are today is just your current location, not your destination. The goal was never a scary $1 million wall. It was one bill, then one paycheck, then the horizon of all this, replacing the job itself, and walking away from work you only do because you have to. This was never about the money on paper. It's about what it buys you, not a yacht. Freedom, security, the quiet confidence that even on a day you do absolutely nothing, you're still getting paid. Which leaves the one question I haven't answered anywhere in this video. How does a normal person on a normal income actually get to $250,000 in the first place? It starts with $500 a month. And what happens when you commit to that one number and just don't stop is bigger than anything the yield column can do for you. That's the video on your screen right now. Why everything changes. When you invest $500 every month, watch that one next, then come back to these numbers with a real plan.